So, alright, we're picking back up here. It's November 18th, 2015. And we are at the point where Grandpa had arrived by boat from the U.S. to Glasgow, Scotland, and then by train from Glasgow to the Paris area. And in Paris, he was waiting for his fighter group to be found. And
that I was trying to get assigned to.
it was, and ultimately you got assigned to what fighter group?
405th Fighter Group,
405th.
509th Squadron.
And the 509th Squadron.
Yeah, which also contained the 510th and the 511th and so on. Yeah.
And what was the role of the 405th?
Was ground support of the ground troops and armored equipment and so on. Yeah.
What does that mean? Ground support. What type of
It
activities
means that
are involved?
we're part of the activity that's necessary for the infantry and also the tanks, the armored people, which are the big basic offensive weapons, so to speak. And artillery, you got to throw the artillery in too. For them to proceed and occupy more enemy territory. The progress of the enemy, or of the ground support or support of the ground troops and equipment, support of the equipment also. And it's a combination. Everybody's working together. Like we're strafing with our fighter airplanes. We're dive bombing with bombs.
Sit up a little bit to the left this way.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So you do a combination of things here.
Yeah, it's the closest thing that, and all of this evolved as the war evolved, so to speak. In other words, the tactics that we were using and tactics is a good word for it. That we were using we were improving every day, and so on our ability to destroy tanks on the ground and destroy troops and destroy trucks and so on, in the destruction that we could accomplish.
So your job was almost a clearer path for the ground troops,
or to assist them. Yeah, I don't want to give anybody the idea that we were just assisting them.
Okay.
Really, and they would. A good example would be if say there's a couple of German tanks, see, and our troops are here. Our troops are trying to inch forward, but they got these two tanks sitting here.
You can't see that on the camera. So the tanks are out ahead of the troops.
Yeah, they're ahead of the troops, but they have other German infantry following behind them, see. In other words, the infantry.
Yeah.
Yeah. They usually were, in our way of combating them was the reverse of what they're trying to do with us, see. But we were going back, we were trying to give you an example of what a specific incident that we might be assisting them. And that's what I say, you got two tanks that are holding up progress of our troops. They can't get around them because they're shooting at them, see, and they've got to spend their time trying to dodging bullets and dodging whatever the infantry, the Germans are opposing them with. Well, our assignment would be, and it's all done by ground control, radio and so on, that these two tanks, that's what our target would be, see. You go in and strafe those tanks. Or if you got any bombs left, why, see if you can hit them with a bomb, so on.
And was the role of the 509th Squadron, the squadron you were in, was there any more was its responsibility any more specific, or did it lie squarely? It was the same responsibility as the 405th Group, or was there anything more specific the 509th Squadron did? Besides, in addition, or more specific to supporting the ground troops? Was there any more, was it further specialized?
Yeah. I wouldn't say it was, now our missions could vary somewhat as the targets themselves would.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that you'd be trying to destroy like a railroad locomotive that they had hidden somewhere or had been seeking refuge, you know, and so you could go in and destroy the. See, we had enough power that we could probably make the locomotive inoperable after you made if you were lucky enough and accurate enough to hit it, you know.
But did the 509th didn't have any different specialty than a different squadron in the 405th Fighter Group?
No.
Okay. You weren't known for anything else, or you were doing the same activities, maybe a different specific assignment, but the same general activities as all the other squadrons.
We were trying to destroy enemy weapons.
Okay.
Yeah, or troops and so on.
And you specifically flew the P-47.
Yeah.
Did everyone in your squadron, you said there was about 20 to 30 pilots in your squadron?
Everybody had a P-47 on a mission, you know. They didn't have it. They didn't have it as a personal tool. Like, well, sometimes they would, but there again, if you had 30 airplanes that were all that were loaded and ready to go and so on, why you usually knew which plane you were going to have on a day-to-day basis, but other than that, you didn't, you know.
So you were in Paris, and the intelligence found out that where the group that you had been assigned to, the 405th Fighter Group and the 509th Squadron, was stationed at the time. Where was that? Where did they find out that? Where did the intelligence group find out that they were stationed?
Saint Dizier.
Saint Dizier, France.
Yeah.
And so you got to Saint Dizier, France, in the late fall of '44.
Mm-hmm.
And you spent several months based out of there.
Right.
And did they have you performing missions right away, or did they give you time to get out?
Oh, we had about a week or a month that we had what I remember. There was always the constant task of breaking in airplanes that they'd put new engines in, see. So you had to go up and just fly around for several hours. I remember one of the first things I did is when they told me that you've got to put slow time. They call it slow time. You got to slow time the airplane. You got to do that today.
Keep it under 2.
Yeah. So more or less, yeah. But
this time was also for you to get oriented with the specific geographic area.
Yeah. I on my slow time thing, I remember going from Saint Dizier and flew down to Paris. I took a nice little circle around Paris, around the Eiffel Tower. I put my left wing on the tower and just made a big circle around it. Went back to the base in Saint Dizier. All that probably I were able to put 2 or 3 hours of flying time on that. And a lot of times you'd have to do that 2 or 3 times during this period, you know, that you were getting ready to go into the. And then the next thing that you did, or you went out and they called it. area patrol, which meant you flew parallel to the area that was over in enemy territory, see, but you didn't go over into it. You just flew, and and they had it organized so that you had to fly formation and all that sort of thing, and you practiced that. It was a little more aggressive than it had been in your previous training periods and so on. So that everybody could get the feel of what was expected of you. You know, like when you held your formation, why a lot of guys didn't realize that they expect you to not to fall behind. In other words, you had to stay within a certain distance of that plane you were flying formation with. And a lot of guys weren't used to the fact that over there you flew at pretty much anywhere from say 3/4 to full throttle all the time. And back in your training days, you'd fly along. In fact, a lot of them, the planes weren't in the kind of shape that they were when they were using them as combat planes. They're entirely different. And so that it was much more different atmosphere and attitude and everything else. I mean, it was basically, you know, this is for keeps. This is the real thing.
So that was your last...
Against what your training years, which had been a year, 2 years maybe.
So this was really your last little bit of training before you started the
Yeah,
missions.
exactly, yeah.
So...
And after that's over, why, you didn't get any of these menial tasks of slow timing, or you didn't have to go through that area patrol situation. You were playing for keeps.
So do you recall, at least, while your group, your fighter group, and your squadron was in St. Dizier, any missions that you did, you were part of?
Sure. Yeah, we were, the first missions that I was part of were part of the offensive that was going on, what they call the Battle of the Bulge, so to speak. That's where that started.
This is in late fall?
It was in December of 44, yeah. I in fact, we get out the log, but I think seems to me I flew around 25 hours, and that would be probably maybe 10 missions, something like that.
10 in St. Dizier or in December?
No, in December.
In December,
yeah.
okay.
And all of the targets, or all of the missions were involving the Battle of the Bulge up around, I can't think of too much of the geographic area. If I had a map I could, but it was up in the Ardennes and some of the, I don't know whether when you went through Europe there, if you got over into it was in Belgium and not Holland yet, but most of it was in Belgium, Luxembourg and so on, yeah.
Okay, well we'll pause there and then we'll pick up another, in another segment we'll talk about some of the example missions that you did in St. Dizier and maybe other places you were stationed in the 405th as well.
Sure.